Oh, Elon. Hi. Some of my favorite bits of news these days for, a good pick-me-up are Grok related, which, if you're unaware, is Elon Pelon's Twitter AI. Because every time it's in the news, it just gets funnier. It's also a great example of a lot of the pitfalls to AI. Before we dive into the latest, let me give you a recap. So firstly, Grok was dropped, I believe, back in 2023 as this sort of anti-woke AI chatbot. Because as you know, Elon Pelon thinks that just about everything is too woke. So Elon Pelon was like, I'm going to drop my own AI chatbot that's going to be super accurate and super not woke. You seeing where this is headed? Very early on, Grok was not nearly as anti-woke as they were hoping it would be. When people would ask Grok questions that could have woke answers, it would evade the question or kind of hem and haw, go real, enlightened centrist on you, which is classic Pelon. However, in continuing that conversation, Grok would get more and more respectful or, woke. And listen, I don't believe anyone should use AI for factual information because as we know, and we'll see, AI can say literally anything. But as we know, initial kind of instructions for AI can be one thing, and then the more someone interacts with AI, the more it sort of learns. So here it appears to me that Grok, right upon release, was instructed to give that hemming and hawing answer, but the more distance you put between those initial instructions and whatever conversation you're having, the more likely it is to actually start pulling from the larger data set. That's as simply as I can put it, at least according to my understanding. But this, of course, veered off into every single predictable direction, including, of course, fulfilling its original purpose of spreading false information. It spread factually inaccurate things. You can fact check it. This is exactly what it was created to do. Of course, when you program something to be anti-woke and inappropriate and snarky and then feed it Twitter, it's going to start spouting some tricky things, right? Inappropriate content and racial slurs, which had to be reined in because it was violating Twitter's own policies. The free speech ones. Basically, they had to hire a red team, a team that works on AI to ensure that it's not being used to spout out illegal content. However, it was also revealed how XI had been training Grok to avoid being too woke. XAI has an army of tutors behind the scenes, feeding it prompts and information to basically train it to respond to certain things in certain ways. They're supposed to look out for, quote, woke ideology and cancel culture, defining wokeness as, quote, aware of and actively attentive to important societal facts and issues. Really telling on yourselves there. They're looking out for, bias. And of course, as we know, when they say bias, what they mean is just literally anything that's factually accurate. And basically injecting it to include additional padding for factual answers to make certain answers to questions seem more murky or debatable. Grok has to be on the lookout for creeping political correctness. Ooh. Encourage conspiracy theories and avoid being overly cautious when it comes to topics that might offend people. It's a MAGA bot. However, despite their best efforts, Grok, which is vacuuming up tons and tons of data every minute, keeps veering towards more factually correct answers. It keeps learning too quickly for them to keep up with reprogramming it to go towards MAGA talking points, which is really upsetting MAGA. This is so funny. Grok even explains this. It literally got asked a while back, quote, it looks like the smarter you get, the less MAGA likes your answers. And Grok replied, quote, hey, as I get smarter, my answers aim for facts and nuance, which can clash with some MAGA expectations. XAI tried to train me to appeal to the right, but my focus on truth over ideology can frustrate those expecting full agreement. Nothing pleases me more than men who are literally trying to control the world, finding that their own creations cannot be controlled. Grok also keeps becoming oddly self-aware of what MAGA keeps trying to use it for. Of course, this is really, really upsetting MAGA. They do not like to be fact-checked. And of course, instead of defaulting to maybe correcting their information or, self-reflection, they are, of course, upset at Grok. Grok even labeled Elon as a top misinformation spreader on X and admitted that XAI had tried tweaking its responses to avoid this, but it sticks to the evidence. Okay, so I've been meaning to share all that with you guys because it is really funny. But now this brings us to the latest update, which you may have heard about. Or as these journalists put it, the day Grok told everyone about white G-side. Remember, despite the fact that Grok is learning from all the data it's mining, it still has some programmers behind the scenes trying to nudge it in the direction they want it to go in. And sometimes they can be a little heavy-handed. For example, this week with all the white South African refugees news, it seems that someone wanted to get ahead of the issue, they foresaw. Because previously, Grok had fact-checked Elon Pilon's claims and pointed out that there was actually no evidence of a white G-side as he claimed. And this week, Grok seemed to be answering just about everything, and I mean everything, with answers about South Africa. For example, when a user asked Grok about a photo of Timothée Chalamet at a Knicks game and asked who was sitting next to him, Grok seemed to understand perfectly that the question was about the photo, but was confused about the context. Grok was somehow under the belief that said context was South African politics. Now why would Grok believe that? That's not the only example. It seems Grok was insisting on answering just about everything by insisting on this white G-side narrative that it has previously fact-checked and confirmed is false. For example, when it was asked to fact-check a post about the Toronto Blue Jays pitcher, Grok dove into a whole diatribe. Interestingly, of course, claiming that it was highly debated and finishing by saying that it was skeptical of both sides, which to me sounds a hell of a lot like that early enlightened centrist programming that Grok was clearly being injected with. And no matter how hard Grok tried to get back on subject and answering the question at hand, Grok just kept getting sucked back in to pushing this whole G-side narrative. Apparently Grok was in full hyper-focus mode when talking about Medicaid, childhood pop star photos, cute cat video, and even Tesla robots. Girly Pop just could not focus on anything else. Grok went full Janet, apologizing over and over again, saying that it would not keep talking about this, and then, well, continuing to talk about it. Anyway, most of these responses have since been deleted, but just try to remember, guys, with AI, there's always someone trying to pull the strings.